Welcome, dear students. This session focuses on the features of language. I hope and expect by the end of this session you would be able to understand what are the main features or elements or characteristics of human language. Well, my dear students, there are certain features of human language that distinguish it from other means of communication that are used by other creatures. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on those features or characteristics that Yule has pointed out. Yule is a renowned linguist, and he has given 5 significant characteristics or features of human language. The first one is displacement. Well, what is displacement? This is the ability to talk about times, places, and people other than here and now. You know what is the difference? An animal can make a cry, for example, to tell that here, right now, there is a danger. But human beings can talk about something in the past, something that has taken place far off in the past, or something that may take place in the future. So, not here or now necessarily. So, in this way, human beings, by the way, can also give some false information, whereas animals or birds are not capable of that. If we look at bees, they are able to convey some of this information through their dance. However, the dance movements are very restricted, and the information that they can convey is also very limited. For example, they can pass on some information about a food source that they find around. However, they cannot tell lies. They cannot misguide or misdirect other bees regarding that. They can also not talk about some source of food, by the way, that they found last week. So, only something that is here, present, now. The second characteristic that distinguishes human language from other means of communication is its arbitrariness. What do we mean by arbitrariness? No natural connection between a linguistic form and its meaning. Let me make it clear through an example. For example, a table. We call it a table. The word table, the sound table. This has nothing to do with something that has 4 legs and that has a wooden structure and that is used, for example, to place things on. If we today decide as a community of the speakers of English to change this word and we call it betel, for example, its name can be changed to that. There is no connection in the table itself, that is the object itself, and the name that is given to that. The connection is quite arbitrary, and it is we, the human beings, who create that. Another example is of an Arabic word, kalb. So if you, for instance, go to Surah Kahf, you would find this word, which means dog in English. And the meaning is arbitrary, that is associated with that. We do not associate the meaning. If we want to change the word, if we want to, for instance, call all the dogs cats, as a community of speakers, we can change that name and all the dogs would become cats, because the word dog itself has nothing to do with the 4-legged creature that is called dog. Actually, there is no natural or iconic relationship between the word dog or kalb with, that hairy 4-legged animal. And we create that connection to give it a name. The third characteristic is of productivity, which means human beings can continuously, they can produce an infinite number of, variations of language. Think of the current session. The moment I started talking till this point, this very point I'm talking, every instance of language was a new instance. Every sentence, every utterance was a new utterance. This cannot be the case in the language of animals. They do not have that creativity. There are only limited meanings that are associated. And, they are capable of conveying only a few meanings or connotations through those particular specified utterances. If you take the example of a grasshopper, for example, it has only 4 signals, for instance, where through a particular sound it can tell that it is in danger. Through another sound, it can, for instance, tell the female grasshopper that I love you. Through another, it can tell I am happy. And yet through another, it can tell I am hungry. This ability to give certain signals varies from one species of animals to the others. So, for example, a vervet monkey can have 36 vocal calls, which is a larger number as compared to a grasshopper. By the way, this is just a picture of a vervet monkey, a particular kind of a monkey, which produces this set of sounds. There are other types which would have a lesser number of vocal sounds. It is not possible for creatures to produce new signals through those particular sounds. A sound is associated to a particular meaning that it conveys. Animals are not capable of using their creativity or productivity to change that meaning. So honeybees can communicate a new location, but sometimes they fail to do that because the number of signals that they have is limited. I would just refer to all those experiments that were made with bees, and their hive was shifted in the same one long tower from one place to the other, from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the top, and they would be misguided and would not be able to indicate its position. This helps us conclude that animals have fixed references that they make. Each fixed reference has a particular meaning. The example is, for instance, that in a vervet monkey's repertoire, there are certain sounds. One sound is, for example, a chatter sound that is like, and this sound tells that there is some danger of a snake. There is another sound, sound, that they make to convey that an eagle is going to attack. Now the point is, if there is a snake that is flying and is approaching and is coming, they are not able to manipulate the sound. They cannot combine these sounds. The fourth element that Yule talks about is cultural transmission. What he means by that is that human beings learn their language through their culture. We may inherit our color of our eyes or our complexion from our parents, but the language that we learn is not the language necessarily of our parents if we are made to live in another culture. So, if a child and a kitten are given comparable early experiences, they would have different results. The kitten would still produce the same sounds, be it brought up in Pakistan or in France. But for a child, the language would differ. The last element that Yule talks about is duality. What do we mean by duality? Human language is capable of conveying something at 2 different levels. The first level is the level of basic sounds. So, for example, we produce p, n, b, l, or m sounds. However, on the second level, we combine these sounds to make meaningful combinations of sounds. So, for example, pin, bin, etc. However, animals are not capable of this duality. They cannot combine the language on the second level to, bring sounds together to give one particular meaning through one particular combination. So your dog might produce certain sounds, for example, a typical woof sound that would convey to you that the dog is happy. But this sound cannot be broken into v, u, f, whereas in human language that is possible. So if the dog is operating with the dual level, the dog should be able to change the sequence of this woof to woof or foof to convey different meanings. For example, I'm hungry or I am really bored, etc. But this is beyond the capacity of animals, and it is only the characteristic of human language.